I never thought I'd find myself in this situation, writing down my feelings like this. My name's Jake, and I was married to a woman named Tessa. We'd been together for nearly 8 years, and I genuinely thought we had a great relationship. At least that's what I told myself. There were always little signs, but I brushed them off. Life gets busy, right? Tessa was a fiery woman, passionate, highly opinionated, and sometimes a little bitchy. But that's what I loved about her. She was the kind of woman who wouldn't hesitate to speak her mind, and I appreciated that. That said, after a while, the passion turned into something else, something that felt more like resentment. The late nights, the sudden changes in her routine, and a few too many arguments over small things started to create a rift between us. I noticed she was less affectionate, too. My attempts at intimacy were met with excuses. "I'm too tired," or "not tonight, Jake." There were even weird incidents, like the time she'd come home with a hint of someone else's cologne clinging to her clothes. She'd laugh it off, saying she'd just been out with friends. But I could shake the nagging feeling that something was wrong. One particular night, the situation escalated. I came home early from work, eager to surprise her with dinner. As I opened the door, I was hit with an overwhelming silence. The house was dark and my heart raced. After calling out her name a few times with no response, I ventured into the kitchen. There, on the counter, was her phone. The screen lit up with a message, one from a guy named Mark. The text was flirty, something about how he couldn't wait to see her again. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I stood there frozen, my mind racing. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but the evidence was right in front of me. As I stood there, my thoughts spiraled out of control. Who was this Mark? How long had this been going on? My stomach churned, and I felt a mixture of anger and betrayal boiling inside me. When Tessa finally walked through the door, I confronted her. I didn't want to, but the words poured out before I could stop them. "Who's Mark?" I demanded, my voice barely steady. Her expression shifted from surprise to annoyance in an instant. "What are you talking about, Jake? You're being ridiculous." I waved her phone in front of her. This ridiculous?" Her face paled, but she quickly regained her composure. "You're overreacting. It's just a friend from work," she said, dismissing my concerns like they were nothing. I could tell she was lying, and that infuriated me even more. She tried to change the subject to make me feel guilty for even questioning her. "You're always so paranoid, Jake. Maybe if you paid more attention to me, I wouldn't need to look for attention elsewhere." I felt my heart drop. The blame shifting was a low blow, but she had a way of turning the tables. I had never been the kind of husband to neglect her emotionally. I fought back tears as the realization hit me hard. The woman I loved was betraying me. Deep down, I was hurt, confused, and angry. I didn't want to let her see how much she'd affected me. I avoided crying, and instead I felt an overwhelming urge to retaliate. How could she do this to me? I thought we had something real. I was determined to find out the truth, to dig deeper into her lies. That night I barely slept. I kept replaying our conversation in my head, dissecting every word. I felt like a fool for trusting her. My heart ached, but I needed to gather my thoughts before deciding what to do next. I realized I had to take action. I couldn't just sit back while she shattered everything we'd built together. As the sun rose, I felt a sense of resolve. I needed to gather evidence. I couldn't confront her again without knowing for sure what was going on. I'd have to become a detective in my own life, but first I needed to compose myself and prepare for the storm ahead. The next few days were a blur. I went to work, but my mind was elsewhere. I felt like a man possessed. I couldn't focus on anything except Tessa and her betrayal. Each time my phone buzzed, my heart raced, expecting a message from her or even from Mark. I had no idea how this guy fit into the picture, but I was intent on finding out. I started by observing Tessa closely. I took mental notes of her routine, the times she left for work, and when she came home. She had always been somewhat of a night owl, but now it felt like she was out later than usual, often coming home close to midnight. She claimed she was busy with work meetings or hanging out with friends, but the late nights were starting to feel more like excuses. I decided to take a different approach. I'd check her social media. I knew Tessa was active online, so I created a fake account and started to follow her. It felt wrong, but I was desperate for answers. It didn't take long for me to find her page. Scrolling through her posts, I found photos of nights out with friends, including some with a man I'd never seen before. I felt sick as I stared at a picture of her and Mark, their arms draped over each other, laughing with drinks in their hands. The caption was innocent enough, "Fun night out with the best crew." But I could see the chemistry between them, and it made my stomach turn. I felt a mix of anger and heartbreak. I couldn't help but feel like I was losing her to someone who didn't appreciate her the way I did. I pushed myself to dig deeper. I needed to know their connection, how long this had been going on, and what she was hiding from me. After a couple of days of stalking her social media, I finally decided to confront her again. But this time, I wouldn't let her deflect the conversation. I had to be strategic. I wanted to catch her off guard, to see the truth in her eyes before she had time to prepare her excuses. One night after work, I waited up for her. The clock ticked past 11 p.m. and I was tense, sitting on the couch with my heart pounding. When Tessa finally walked through the door, her eyes lit up with surprise. "Jake, you're still up?" she asked, a slight edge of panic in her voice. "Yeah, I wanted to talk," I said, keeping my tone calm, although inside I felt like a volcano about to erupt. "We need to discuss what I found." She hesitated, her hand twitching as she dropped her purse on the table. "What do you mean? Don't play dumb, Tessa. I saw the pictures of you and Mark. We need to talk about him." The moment I mentioned his name, I saw her composure shatter. Her expression shifted from surprise to anger in a split second. "You're going to creep on me now? Seriously, Jake?" I didn't give her a chance to deflect. "I'm not creeping. I'm trying to understand how my wife can be so close with another man. You've been lying to me. I want the truth." Her eyes narrowed, and for a moment I wondered if she would just come clean. But instead, she launched into a string of excuses. "He's just a friend. You know how I get with my work friends. You're making this into something it's not." I felt my anger boiling over. "But it is something. You're making me feel like I'm crazy. You're spending more time with him than with me. What the hell is going on?" She crossed her arms defensively. "I can't believe you accuse me of cheating," she exclaimed, her voice rising. "You're the one who's always busy with work, Jake. Maybe if you actually paid attention to me, I wouldn't need to have fun with friends." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "You think this is fun, lying to your husband, sneaking around? You've done this to yourself, Tessa. I'm just trying to understand why the hell you're doing this." Tessa looked away, and for a moment I thought I saw a flicker of guilt in her eyes. I pressed on. "If it's nothing, why can't you just be honest with me? You've got nothing to hide, right?" She rolled her eyes and muttered something under her breath. "You know what? Fine. I'm done talking about this. You're just going to twist my words anyway." And just like that, she shut me out again. I felt completely defeated. How could I get her to see the hurt she was causing? I was left with more questions than answers, and every time I tried to confront her, she turned the tables. I was at my wit's end, and I realized I had to take a different approach. I needed solid evidence, something undeniable that would force her to confront the reality of what she was doing. I decided to follow her the next night. I would find out for myself if she was really seeing Mark or if it was all just one big misunderstanding. I had to know the truth, no matter how painful it might be. That night, I felt like a secret agent as I prepared to follow Tessa. I had her scheduled down to a science by this point, and I knew she was meeting up with Mark again. I had considered the risks. What if she caught me? But the thought of her betrayal fueled my resolve. I couldn't take her word for it anymore. I needed to see it with my own eyes. I parked a few blocks away from our house, hidden in a dark corner where I could observe her without being noticed. I checked the time again and again, the minutes crawling by. My heart raced with anticipation and dread. As the clock struck 8 p.m., I saw her leave the house, dressed in a form-fitting black dress that hugged her curves just right. I felt a pang of jealousy but quickly shook it off. I had to stay focused. I started my car and followed her, keeping a safe distance. She drove through the city, and I trailed her, all the way to a trendy bar downtown. The place was crowded, full of laughing patrons enjoying their Friday night. I parked a few blocks away and walked casually toward the entrance, pretending to be just another customer looking for a drink. Inside the bar, the atmosphere was loud and vibrant. I scanned the room, searching for her. It didn't take long to spot Tessa. She and Mark were seated at a corner table, their bodies angled toward one another, leaning in close. My stomach twisted as they shared a laugh, and I felt my heart sink further. I stood there, hidden behind some tall potted plants, trying to absorb the scene before me. Mark was a tall guy with an easy smile, and he looked completely at ease with her. I watched as she playfully brushed her hair behind her ear, a gesture I recognized all too well. It was the same way she had acted with me when we first started dating. A wave of nostalgia hit me, but it was quickly replaced by anger. As their drinks arrived, I noticed how she touched his arm while laughing at some joke. My blood boiled. I never thought I'd witness my wife being so flirty with another man, and it felt like a knife twisting in my chest. I wasn't just feeling betrayed, I was feeling humiliated. I thought I had known her. I thought we were happy. I couldn't just stand there and watch. My heart raced as I thought about confronting them. I had imagined this moment a million times in my head, but now that it was happening, I felt paralyzed. What would I say? How would I approach them without making a scene? It was a delicate situation. One wrong move and I could create a bigger mess than I'd intended. Just then, Tessa leaned in closer to Mark, whispering something in his ear that made him laugh. That was it. I had to do something. I couldn't just let her keep betraying me like this. I took a deep breath and stepped forward, weaving through the crowd toward their table. "Hey, Tessa, mind if I join you?" I said, trying to sound casual but feeling the tension in my voice. She looked up, surprise washing over her face. "Jake, what are you doing here?" Mark's expression was a mix of confusion and concern, but I could see he was trying to play it cool. "Oh hey man, we were just—" "Save it," I interrupted, cutting him off. I focused on Tessa, trying to gauge her reaction. "We need to talk right now." Tessa's cheeks flushed with a mix of embarrassment and anger. "What the hell, Jake, this isn't the time or place," she hissed, her voice low but fierce. "Then when is it going to be, Tessa? When you're done parading around with your friend? You can't keep lying to me." I felt my pulse quicken, the adrenaline surging through my veins. Mark shifted uncomfortably in his seat, clearly unsure of how to handle the situation. "Look, man, it's really not what you think." I turned to him, my voice firm. "Stay out of this. This is between me and my wife." Tessa shot him a glance that told him to keep quiet. She then stood up, her eyes flashing with defiance. "You don't get to just barge in here and make accusations, Jake. I'm allowed to have friends." "Friends don't flirt over drinks, Tessa. Friends don't lean in like that." I shot back, my frustration boiling over. "You think this is just innocent fun? You're lying to yourself." A few nearby patrons turned to look at us, sensing the tension. I didn't care. I wanted everyone to see this moment. I wanted Tessa to feel the weight of her actions. "Can we just go outside?" she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, and we stepped out into the cool night air, leaving the bar's noise behind us. Once outside, the atmosphere shifted slightly. The street was quieter, but the tension between us was heavy. "What the hell, Jake? You're making a scene. This is so embarrassing," she exclaimed, her hands on her hips. "Embarrassing? You think I care about that? You're the one who's been lying and sneaking around." I was seething, but I tried to keep my voice steady. "What do you have to say for yourself?" She hesitated, and for a moment I thought I might get an honest answer. Instead, she took a step back, her expression hardening. "You're just jealous and paranoid. Maybe you should have thought about how much you neglected me instead of accusing me." The blame game again. I felt like I was going in circles. "Can't you see how ridiculous this is? It's not about neglect, it's about honesty. You're in a relationship with me, Tessa. If you're unhappy, talk to me. Don't go behind my back." She crossed her arms, looking defiant, but I could see a hint of uncertainty in her eyes. "I just wanted to feel appreciated, Jake. It's been so long since we had fun together." "Fun? Is this what you call fun?" I said, my voice rising again. "You've crossed a line, Tessa. You need to choose what's more important to you, whatever this is with Mark or our marriage." She looked away, and for a moment I thought I saw regret flicker across her face. But instead of admitting anything, she snapped back. "Maybe you should have thought about that before accusing me." I felt the walls closing in on me. I had come out here looking for answers, but all I got was more denial. She was still unwilling to acknowledge the damage she was causing. I needed to end this confrontation on a strong note, or I would give her the chance to escape again without facing the truth. "Enough with the lies, Tessa. You can't keep pretending this is normal." I took a deep breath, forcing myself to remain composed. I'm done being the fool. You need to decide if you want to salvage this or if you want to continue down this path. With that, I turned on my heel and walked back toward my car, leaving her standing there, speechless. I wasn't sure what was going to happen next, but I felt a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, I had finally pushed her to confront the reality of her actions. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing with everything that had just happened. The confrontation felt like a whirlwind, and I still couldn't believe the audacity of Tessa's denial. I had hoped this would be the moment she'd finally break down and admit she was cheating, but instead, it felt like I was talking to a wall. I was left feeling more confused than ever, and the emotional weight of it all crashed down on me like a tidal wave. When I got home, the silence was deafening. I stood in the living room for a moment, staring at the empty space where we used to share laughs and affection. Now, everything felt tainted by betrayal. I didn't even want to sit on the couch we had picked out together. It felt like a monument to a life that was crumbling around me. I needed to find clarity. I took out my phone and started digging through our text messages. Tessa had always been an open book with her phone, but I was shocked to see how much I had overlooked. Messages with Mark were hidden in plain sight. Flirty banter disguised as friendly chit-chat. It was infuriating. I felt a surge of anger coursing through me as I read the back-and-forth exchanges. Can't wait to see you later. Let's make it a night to remember. Miss you. Wish you were here instead of with that boring husband of yours. Each message felt like another stab to the heart. I felt the urge to throw my phone against the wall, but I stopped myself. I needed to channel this anger into something constructive. I had to confront Tessa again, and this time I wouldn't let her brush me off. I decided to give her one last chance to come clean before I made any further decisions about our future. The next day, I waited for her to get home from work. I had taken the day off, needing the time to process everything and gather my thoughts. I set the scene deliberately. Dinner was ready, the table was set, and ambient music drifted through the air. It felt surreal, putting on a facade of normalcy, but I hoped that the comfort of our home would coax Tessa into being honest. When she walked in, her expression shifted from surprise to confusion. "Jake, what's all this?" "Just wanted to talk," I replied, trying to keep my tone even. "Sit down." She eyed the dinner I had prepared, but I could tell she was wary. "Is this a we need to talk dinner? Because I'm not in the mood for another argument." "This isn't an argument," I said, my voice firm but calm. "This is your chance to come clean. I've seen the texts, Tessa. I know about Mark." Her expression shifted immediately, eyes widening. "What? Where did you see those? Does it matter?" I shot back, unable to hide my frustration. "What matters is that you've been lying to me. I don't want to keep going in circles, just tell me the truth." She hesitated, and for a moment I thought she might actually break down. Her facade seemed to falter as she looked away, searching for the right words. "Jake, I didn't mean for it to go this far. It was just fun and you weren't paying attention. I was feeling lonely." "Lonely?" I echoed incredulously. "Thought flirting with another man behind my back was the solution. What happened to us being a team? You've betrayed my trust." "I know," she exclaimed, her voice rising again. "But I didn't think it would lead to this. I never meant to hurt you." "Then why did you?" I pressed, my heart aching. "You could have talked to me. You could have brought this up, but instead you went behind my back. You chose to betray me." Her eyes filled with tears, and I could see she was genuinely upset. "I messed up, okay? I got caught up in the thrill. Mark made me feel special, and I should have never let it get to that point. I realize that now. But it doesn't change what you've done," I said, my voice breaking slightly. "You have to understand how much this hurts me. I thought we had something real, Tessa. I thought we were happy." "I thought we were too," she said softly, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I feel awful about everything. I don't know how to fix this." "Maybe it's too late to fix it," I replied, my heart heavy. "You've shattered my trust, and I don't know if I can ever get it back. I need time to think about whether I can move forward with you after this." Tessa reached out for my hand, but I pulled back. "Don't," I said firmly. "You've lost that privilege. You need to understand the gravity of what you've done. I can't just forgive and forget." The weight of the moment hung heavy in the air. Tessa looked crushed, and part of me felt sorry for her, but I couldn't let my emotions cloud my judgment. I needed to be strong for myself. The idea of reconciliation felt distant and complicated. I had to make sure I did what was best for me, even if it hurt. I'm going to take some time away, I said finally. I need to clear my head and figure out if I want to continue this marriage or if it's time to let go. Tessa nodded, her expression a mix of anguish and understanding. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right, Jake. I love you. Her words slipped over me like water off a duck back. Did she really love me, or was she just saying what she thought I wanted to hear? I can't think about that right now, I replied, pain lacing my voice. I need to focus on what I want. With that, I turned away from her, feeling a mixture of sorrow, anger, and relief. I was taking the first step in reclaiming my power in this situation. I had to find out who I was without Tessa, whether she was in my life or not. It felt like the end of the world, but I knew I had to navigate through the dark to find the light on the other side. The days that followed were a blur of emotions. I moved through life on autopilot, going to work, eating and sleeping, but feeling like a ghost in my own existence. I hadn't seen Tessa since our confrontation, and the house felt eerily empty without her presence. I spent my evenings alone, reflecting on everything that had happened, our relationship, her betrayal, and the memories that felt tainted now. It was hard to wrap my head around the idea of ending the marriage. We had built so much together, a home, shared dreams, and countless memories. But every time I thought of Tessa, I couldn't shake the image of her with Mark. I grappled with feelings of anger and sadness, trying to find clarity. I reached out to a close friend, Ben, who had seen me through the ups and downs of my life. I needed someone to talk to, someone who could provide a different perspective. We met up at our favorite bar, and I quickly found myself pouring out my heart to him over a couple of beers. Dude, I just don't get it, I said, running my hands through my hair in frustration. I thought we had something real. How could she throw it all away? Ben nodded, his expression serious. I can't say I understand the way she feels, but it sounds to me like she was looking for validation. You guys got caught up in life, and sometimes people go looking for that attention elsewhere. Yeah, but that's no excuse. Cheating is cheating, I exclaimed, my voice rising. She could have come to me, I would have listened. I would have done anything to make it right. True, but you can't control her choices, he countered gently. You can only control how you react. You need to think about what you want moving forward. Do you think you can ever trust her again? I sighed heavily, leaning back in my chair. I don't know. Part of me wants to forgive her, to believe she can change. But the other part of me feels like I could never look at her the same way again. It's like the innocence of our love is gone. Maybe it's time to step back and give yourself some space, Ben suggested. You don't have to make any decisions right now. Take the time to figure out what you truly want. Those words stuck with me. I needed to focus on myself for once. I realized I had been so consumed by Tessa and what she wanted that I had neglected my own needs. I took a few days off work to clear my head, spending that time away from the house and staying with Ben. As I adjusted to the sudden change, I found solace in the routine of my friend's place. I started exercising again, hitting the gym to release some pent-up frustration. I even picked up old hobbies, painting, reading, and writing. It felt good to rediscover pieces of myself that I had put on hold during our marriage. After a week of reflection, I decided to reach out to Tessa. I was ready to have a real conversation. I arranged to meet her at a coffee shop halfway between our places. It felt surreal walking through the door, seeing her sitting there, a mixture of hope and anxiety in her eyes. Jake, she said softly as I approached the table. I could see the tension in her shoulders as she fidgeted with her cup. Hey, I replied, taking a seat across from her. Thanks for meeting with me. She nodded, and for a moment we both sat in silence, the air thick with unspoken words. I finally broke the stillness. I've had some time to think about everything. I'm not sure where we stand, but I wanted to talk. I've been thinking too, she said, her voice trembling slightly. I miss you, Jake. I miss us. I've had so much time to reflect on my mistakes, and I realize how deeply I hurt you. I'm so sorry. Her words hung in the air, and I felt a combination of longing and skepticism. You hurt me, Tessa. It's going to take more than just an apology to fix this. I understand, she replied, her eyes brimming with tears. I know I've shattered your trust and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to rebuild it. I want to make things right. Making things right doesn't happen overnight. It takes time and effort, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. You need to be honest with yourself about what you want and why this happened in the first place. I want you, Jake. I want us. I know I messed up, but I'm committed to changing. I'll go to counseling, whatever it takes, she pleaded. I took a deep breath, weighing my options. I could see she was genuine, but I wasn't sure if I could trust her again. Counseling is a start, but it's also going to take work from both of us. If we're going to move forward, we need to communicate openly, and there can't be any more secrets. Absolutely, she said, nodding vigorously. I promise. I won't hide anything from you again. We spent the next hour discussing our feelings, laying everything on the table. I could feel the tension slowly easing, but I remained cautious. It was a long road ahead, and I wasn't ready to jump back into the relationship without careful consideration. When the time came to leave, I felt a glimmer of hope. Let's take it slow for now. I want to see how things go, but I need to focus on myself too, I said. Of course, Jake. I'll do whatever it takes, she replied, squeezing my hand before we parted ways. As I walked out of the coffee shop, I felt a mix of uncertainty and relief. I wasn't naive enough to believe that everything would magically fix itself, but I was willing to explore the possibility of rebuilding our relationship, one step at a time. I had learned a lot about myself in the past few weeks, and I was determined to maintain that sense of self-worth, regardless of what lay ahead. It was going to be a long journey, but for the first time in a while, I felt a sense of hope. Maybe there was a way forward, one that honored both my feelings and Tessa's commitment to change. Only time would tell if we could truly heal the wounds of betrayal. The weeks that followed felt like a balancing act. Tessa and I started attending counseling together, and the sessions opened up channels of communication that had been long closed. We discussed our feelings, our regrets, and the gaps that had formed in our relationship. Each session was a chance for us to peel back layers of hurt and misunderstanding, and while it was uncomfortable, I could see Tessa was genuinely trying to change. As we navigated this challenging time, I also focused on my own healing. I started journaling, writing down my thoughts and feelings as a way to process everything. I found solace in identifying my needs and establishing boundaries. I realized I had neglected my own emotional health for far too long. I began to recognize the importance of self-care, and slowly, I started to reclaim parts of myself that had been overshadowed by the chaos of our relationship. Beneath the surface, I was still cautious. Each week in therapy brought new revelations about Tessa and herself. It was a roller coaster of emotions. Some days, I felt hopeful, while others, I questioned whether we were truly moving forward or just going through the motions. One evening, during our weekly session with our therapist, Tessa opened up about how she had used attention from Mark as a way to mask her own insecurities. I didn't feel appreciated, and instead of talking to you, I sought validation elsewhere. I thought I could find happiness outside of our marriage, she admitted, her voice trembling. I listened intently, my heart aching for her vulnerability. I never wanted to hurt you, Jake. I thought I could have fun and that it wouldn't matter, but it did, and now I see clearly how selfish I was. Her words resonated with me. It was a small step toward understanding, and I could see she was serious about her commitment to change. I appreciate you being honest, Tessa. It's going to take time, but I want to work through this together. As the weeks turned into months, we faced challenges head-on. There were moments when old insecurities crept back in, and I wrestled with feelings of mistrust. But with each shared moment, both good and bad, I began to see glimpses of the woman I fell in love with. Tessa was fighting for us, and that was something I hadn't anticipated. One night, we found ourselves sitting on the living room floor, reminiscing over old photo albums. We laughed at memories of early dates and vacations, the carefree looks on our faces highlighting just how far we had come. It was a surreal moment, one that made me realize there was still love beneath the layers of pain. As we flipped through the pages, I stopped at a photo of us from our honeymoon. Tessa's face was lit up with joy, and I remembered how in love I had felt at that moment. I miss that version of us, I said quietly, tracing my finger over the image. Me too, she replied, her eyes glistening with tears. I want to get back to that place, Jake. I'm committed to doing the work for us to heal. I never want to lose you again. I felt a swell of emotion. This wasn't going to be easy, but I could see the potential for rebuilding our relationship. It was hard to forget the betrayal, but with each step we took in therapy, I felt a little more equipped to forgive. I realized it wasn't just about Tessa earning back my trust, but also about me learning how to trust again, both her and myself. One evening, we sat down to discuss our future. "Where do you see us going from here?" I asked, looking directly into her eyes. "I want to build something stronger," she said earnestly. "I want to be open to communicate without fear of judgment. I want us to grow together instead of apart." Her sincerity resonated with me. "I want that too. I think we can create something beautiful out of this mess if we keep working at it." We decided to take things day by day, focusing on building a foundation of trust and open communication. We made a pact to check in with each other regularly, sharing our feelings and any insecurities that arose. It was an ongoing process, but I felt hopeful. As months passed, I could see the progress we had made. Tessa was more engaged, more present, and I felt myself starting to let my guard down. We found joy in the little things again: long walks, movie nights, and the occasional spontaneous adventure. We were learning to communicate better, to share our fears and desires without judgment. However, I also learned an important lesson through this process. Healing does not mean forgetting. I would always carry the scars of betrayal, but I was determined to use them as a reminder of how far we had come. I realized that forgiveness was as much for me as it was for her. It was about releasing the hold that the past had on my heart. Eventually, we reached a point where it felt natural to talk about our relationship without the weight of the past hanging over us. Through the tears, the arguments, and the hard conversations, we had found a new rhythm. Tessa was no longer just the woman I loved. She was my partner in rebuilding a life together. As I reflect on this journey, I feel grateful for the lessons learned. Life is unpredictable, and relationships require work. We emerged from a dark chapter stronger and more united than before. I learned the importance of self-worth and the courage to face the truth, no matter how painful it may be. In sharing my story, my hope is to inspire others who may be facing similar struggles. Don't be afraid to seek the truth, to confront the issues head-on, and to prioritize your own healing. Love can be messy, but it can also be transformative. With dedication and open communication, it's possible to rebuild and create something even more beautiful than before.